Welcome, everyone. This week, we've been talking about troubled waters. So we are here today with me, Carola Hein, and
I'm Tianchen Dai. Hello, everyone. I'm also one of the instructors of this course. So very nice meeting all of you.
So we would like to first come back to a few learners who've joined us recently and who have brought in also new ideas. So when you look at water, think of beer, breweries, and the use of groundwater. Or think of Segovia and this beautiful Roman aqueduct that is crossing the city and that is really nicely embedded, and where we've learned a lot on how water is taking from the source to the consumer in intriguing ways. We've also had new mental maps looking here at the way that a dam was built and transformed the environment of the city of Cali, among others. And we've been looking at the water factory in Wilp, which is a really nice representation of how to map cities from the different moments, from rainwater cleaning up to actually being put back into the environment. We've seen other maps on the Venetian wells here, for example, bringing together spatial and social conditions from the staff, as this learner calls it, on the ship, to the well itself and its various components, to portable water, roof gutters, etc. So we can only add maybe the users who are actually going to the well. And there are beautiful historic pictures around the well on the users' account. We've had other examples from the city of Cairo, looking also at the diverse stakeholders and their changes over time. And we are seeing new word clouds being built. Tianchen.
Yes, it's very nice to see this word cloud. So, and please, everyone, keep posting and debating on the discussion board, just to react to each other a bit more. And in this cloud, we can see that awareness and planning are the most important two keywords. As we can see that making awareness is a very important work that we are trying to do, and through local knowledge and through sharing the value of the heritage. And for the future planning, we should also consider cultural heritage into the process. So we're trying to use the heritage as a tool for future urban development and also regeneration.
Yes, and collaboration and cooperation are key elements in that. So please do add on. And if you didn't agree with these words, add your own into the mix. We have seen some fascinating discussions and also crossovers around the world in the discussion. A case like rainwater channels in Valparaiso has lots of commonalities with a case in Bergen, for example. And I'm sure that many of you can add to these discussions. So please do chime in. We've introduced the dualities in this week, and there are a number of intriguing comments around this approach. So trying to get the complexity of challenges into a more graspable pair of understanding. And one learner here looks in particular at the alternative lifestyles in an industrial society versus a group that she was part of that went back to the land. And so the spiritual sense of well-being that resulted from the dedication to a simpler, more bio-friendly life, the learner writes, is something that one person may enjoy, but the others may not. So the question remains then, how do we reconcile these dualities? And it includes, as the learner says, a recognition that most people do not want to give up modern comfort and convenience. So a simple return to the past is insufficient. And I think that's a very good point. We need to learn from the past to understand how specific buildings and practices existed, but we also need to interpret them to see how does that align with contemporary needs and interests. And this learner also made a point about the importance of population growth and the power dynamics between stakeholders. So differentiating here, for example, between the Greens and their advocacy to return to more natural systems, which also means taking land. And that's something we usually don't want today. And it's definitely a big problem of the energy transition, as we might need more land to transition. And the what's called here the Browns, proposing more exploitative practices, however, that benefit a larger population. So these are examples that we also try to capture between the big scale public infrastructures and the small scale, for example, water extraction or rainwater capturing approaches that will require much more attention and labor from local people. We've seen a number of stakeholder maps which show these differences of scales and approaches, public institutions, private institutions, locals, tourists, workers, fishermen are really nicely defined and presented here for the case of Salinas de Santa. And another intriguing stakeholder map, I have to say, very complex, of Krimpener Waard, which could serve very well for a mapping in space to see what spaces are being governed by, controlled by, interpreted by all these various stakeholders that are part of this particular system in Krimpener Waard. Tianchen.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see also some historical images that shows the disaster that we had in history, and also maybe these points to the challenges in the past that people should not rely too much on the infrastructures, but to build with nature, to leave more water, to leave more room for the water. So yes, these historical materials really give us some new inspirations that we should really respect the nature and to live with them in a more intelligent, smart ways.
Yeah, and in this case, damming up water above the city is a huge challenge. And if the dams fail, we do have a problem, which also means how can we go back to these nature-based solutions, even by studying how did ancient streams define the public spaces and the streets in a city. So do you want to add something here?
Yes, yes. In this discussion about the value deliberation, and this learner illustrates the three key stakeholders, which were public work ministry, city mayor, and port authority. And sustainability is the main value shared by these three public institutes. But we can also think about maybe some private companies, residents, workers, visitors. They may share some other values that are actually in conflict with sustainability. So it's a very continuous debate and discussion that we have here, and we invite you all to really dive in and keep this debate going on. And of course, finding shared values is the first and most important step towards future city planning and finding solutions for sustainable water management.
Yes, and so finding shared ideas and then deliberating them to come up with solutions. And these solutions are often well captured in images, like the proposals here for Argentina Avenue. And it would be neat to have comparisons from around the world among other proposals, and perhaps even ones that have already been realized. Now, this is an example from Bergen that speaks very much to the one from Valparaiso. And perhaps there are even moments of fun if the pipes are over flooding and we need to find new solutions. Maybe we can think about playful engagement with water. In the Netherlands, for example, some of the playgrounds are used to capture water in case of there's too much flooding. And maybe we need to think about temporal responses so that we use specific spaces only if there is little water, or that we find purposeful uses when there is flooding. Tianchen.
Yes, it's very nice to see this intriguing perspective that a different group of people react differently to the natural hazards. And I think this scenario also help us to reflect on the urban morphology and the flexibility of it, and how we can strategize to redesign our urban space, and also to rethink about the interaction between water and land. Who actually owns the water and the urban space? And does every piece of water area has to be a concrete urban space in the urban development? Maybe not. So I think this is a question for urban planners and the local governments, who owns the space, and the stakeholders should maybe have debates on these questions. So maybe there's a combination between the bottom-up pressure and also the top-down strategies. I think these kind of combination will be the possible and also the right solution to future strategies for the urban development.
Yes, so we can either call it stealing land or stealing water space, but these are conversations to be had. And to end with, I think this week was hopefully helpful for you all to identify the various conflicts between users, the conflicts and their changes over time, the public interest, the local interest. Tianchen, did you want to add something on Shanghai?
Because yes.
It's a fascinating place.
Yeah, this is a very nice and also complex diagram illustrating that even within a system that is being led by the local government, there are still conflicts between different stakeholders. There are conflicts between stakeholders such as the Shanghai municipal government, and also the inhabitants, tourists, the shipyard company workers, and also between the real estate companies, investment companies. So I think this is a very detailed illustration, tells us that there are big challenges and also great opportunities for the local government and for all the stakeholders to sit down and discuss and to explore a way or a model to strategize in a localized context in Shanghai, how to conserve and also develop our urban space and urban heritage, and maybe to realize a model that can be learned by some other cities in China for the urban regeneration. So I think this can be a very nice example.
Yes, so I hope we have given you some ideas of what others are doing and create the foundation for a more networked approach, exchanges among all of you through the discussions, through the sketch drive. And then we look forward to thinking with you about the week of finding solutions, because these solutions are desperately needed. And we hope that all of your reflections will also feed back into public, academic, and other discourses. So see you again next week, and thanks a lot.
See you. Bye-bye.